everyone, welcome to Femme Fables. Megan here, and Deidre's with me again on this episode. Kind of a segue into the last one. I don't know how we got on the exes reaching back out. Yeah, I don't know how we got on the exes coming back.
I blurted.
But we got on the topic of exes coming back into your life, and then we kind of segued into, can you be friends with your ex?
Yeah.
Do you think exes can be friends?
No. I don't think exes
so
are friends. That's my belief, and I'll explain why in a bullet point system right here. I wish there was a graphic with a pie chart that was like a fuck you.
I mean, I could add that as an effect to
I need that. It's going to be a big pie chart right here, and it's going to say fuck you. It's a Venn diagram. No, think about this. I know people who collect exes. They're friends with every single ex they've ever had, and they're like on a hanger.
Ex-hoarder.
Yeah, ex-hoarder. They were like in a little closet on a hanger, like the first one, the second one, the third one.
And they're like, who am I gonna fuck with today?
Really,
I'm gonna take you down and fuck with you.
And I know people that like stay in contact with these people, and they like constantly rehash their relationship and rehash their breakup.
Ooh, that's tough.
Trauma bonding.
Well, and I've done that with my most recent ex that reached back out, but I didn't get closure. Remember, he kind of breadcrumbed me and then disappeared, so I never really got to talk about things. And you know, he was like, I didn't choose someone else over you. She stumbled along in my life. I want to try, which I think is BS, but whatever. You know what I mean? But you kind of got some level of closure, and he apologized. He's like, I'm so sorry that I hurt you.
Yeah.
But then he ghosted me again, so.
I think
really sorry.
One of the things I used to hate more than anything was the hindsight apology.
Oh.
The coming back to say they're sorry, the coming back.
Well, he didn't even come back to say sorry. I had to pull that out of him.
They always come back.
Because I'm like, don't you feel bad for what you did? And he's like, well, I tried to live life with no regrets. I was like, yeah, me too, but I can still feel bad for hurting somebody I claim to care about. And then he was like,
do you think he just said yes?
He was like, if I haven't said it before, I'll say it again, and it bears repeating. I'm sorry.
Thanks.
Thanks.
I want that chart.
Nothing.
Maybe it can be here. It'll be like, what, bloop? It'll be like, oh.
You just want a middle finger?
Just a middle finger. That's the pie chart.
Okay, so pie chart with just a middle finger. I think I can figure that out.
You can't be friends with your exes, especially if you broke up over, like, had a bad breakup. Now, there's some people that, let's say that they had a relationship and they just amicably split. Even space and time would need to separate that. If you were intimately involved with someone and you had an intimate relationship, I don't think that person has any place if you have a current relationship.
Ooh, well, okay, so it's twofold. So I think you can be acquaintances. I still talk to some of my exes, not regularly. Like, hey, happy birthday, Merry Christmas, bye. Like, we don't rehash things. We're way past that points in our life. It's so many years ago. But like this most recent ex, I can't be friends with.
No.
Like, and I told him that. I'm like, don't reach back out to me unless you want to pursue something with me. There is no friendship.
Right.
Because there's too many emotions and feelings at play. And if it was not amicable and there's still those lingering emotions, you can't be friends, because there's always going to be that what if. Like,
no, you remember. Right. Then you're like, oh, I really liked it when there's too many. Yeah. There's too many slippery slopes.
Yeah.
Being friends with an ex. There's inside jokes. There's intimate moments. Ooh, those things come into play, and then like
song that reminds you, like, it's so funny. When he reached back out to me, I was listening to some music, and it was a song that he sent me, so I screenshot it, and I was like, look what's playing right now. You know what I mean? It's that kind of stuff. And then you start reminiscing and kind of romanticizing things that happen in like all the good things. That's what you start remembering. Right. Forget all the bad things. And yeah, I think you can be acquaintances, but like, hey, let's hang out, besties.
No, there's people that have like a lot, like tough. My best friend, if you have, no, you just can't. No, and if they come back to like message you and talk to you, like you should just very respectfully decline, because what is there to talk about? If you've already broken up,
please claim your business.
Yeah,
please
state your business.
Yeah, state your business with me.
Because people will come and they want to be like, hey, I just want to see how you're doing. Why? I genuinely, maybe I sound like an asshole, because do they genuinely want to know how you are, and why do they want to know how you're doing? Why? Where is that relevant in their life or your life?
All right, so I'm gonna take ownership. After this breakup with this guy, I reached back out to one of my exes. Mm-hmm. And in hindsight, thinking about it, I'm like, okay, where was I in that moment? I was laying in bed. I was feeling lonely. Mm-hmm. I was looking through old photos, and something like a screenshot of what he sent me popped up, and I was like, oh, I wonder how so-and-so is doing. I reached out to him, and that just set a turn of events. He wanted to get back together. I didn't. I wasn't healed yet from my last relationship. I had to break it off with him because
I remember that.
I couldn't give him what he needed at the time, and we were just two different people now. Like,
do you guys talk now?
No, I don't think he wants to hear from me.
Oh.
Rightfully so. I was not in a good place. I didn't handle it well.
I think you were honest.
I was honest, yes, but I'm sure it was very hurtful, and I totally get it. And I think that's the sign of maturity. I know reaching out to him again would just fuck up his world, so I wouldn't do it because I care enough about him. I actually saw him on my dating app, and I just smiled when I saw him. I was like, oh, because I do. Like, you love and care about a person. When you truly love and care about a person like that, you don't want to hurt them. The people who reach out, in that moment, I wasn't intentionally. I don't think people sit there and plot like, I'm going to reach out to Deidra and fuck up a world. Some people do. Some people who are toxic and narcissistic behaviors will do that. Like, they're like, oh, I'm bored and I want some drama. Like, let's stir some shit up.
If I know that my message to somebody is going to make them feel something, that's irresponsible. Especially if that person is in a relationship already. Or let's say they're not. And you know that it's going to...
You know that they still have feelings for you.
No matter what. Because I do think that... whether you have like active feelings for somebody, you had at one point had feelings for them.
Yeah.
And that will trigger that, what they know. And I think that that's irresponsible. I think people don't acknowledge that with that.
No. But I think that's the thing, is that in that moment when I reached out to my ex, I wasn't like, oh my God, this is going to do this. I don't think people, I think something just like that. I saw something that triggered me to think of the person, so I reached out.
Yeah.
But, the response, if you know that person, which at that time I didn't, well, no, that's not true because he wanted to get back together the time before too. So it was my fault. I was irresponsible, 100%, and I would take ownership of that.
But you didn't know that at the time.
I didn't, and I can accept it and understand it and know that, it wouldn't be fair to reach out to him because he probably still has some lingering feeling, right?
And you wouldn't do that now.
Right, and he probably would respond to me, because he cares about me. I think that's the thing too, is that if a person knows, like I think in my instance, like he knows I still have some level of connection to him, or he wants to, like, I want to see if I'm still present in her mind.
Or even if you're not present, it makes them present.
Right. Or I want to be present now because I'm bored and lonely, and
I just want to see if there's still a window there for me.
Right.
Can I just weasel in and get a few words of affirmation or something to like fill
stroke
up
my
their
ego? Yeah.
Because that's what you do. You would be like, you would, reinvigorate them.
Right. Yeah. Well, especially when they like.
But let's say his girlfriend was like, oh, what is this? He'd be like, oh, that's my friend Megan. So people who go through like breakup, then they're automatically friends. That's my friend. But they're not your friend.
Yeah. They're not your friend if you fucked them. I'm sorry. Like, multiple, slept together, pretty much lived together.
No, they're not
physical with each other.
They're not a friend. And I respect people that, I respect that people think that, but I don't agree. Like, because I'm like,
well, I think people are lying to themselves. I think
more of it, because I'm like, you're causing more trouble for yourself, and you're actually being pretty dishonorable in many ways to not acknowledge to yourself that you still have feelings for those people, and that's not a bad place to be. And that people come up and want to like if you had a bad breakup, those people were not a friend to you in that relationship, regardless. That's why you broke up.
That is a great fucking point.
Yeah. Like, I would say, how is that person your friend when they did things to you that were not very friendly? Right. Friend-like. Yeah. So if they treated you in a way you're like, wow, you're not a good friend to me, and you break up, how are they automatically just a friend? You can call them something else, give them another name, because say, oh, that's my ex is a little bit more triggering to your environment than saying, oh, that's a friend of mine. Right. So it's just some weird blanket, vague title that's given, and I'm like, you're no friend of mine. You hurt me.
Right. Yeah. And I think we talked in the last episode, like how, like, I'll have friends that don't respond to me and it doesn't trigger me. But if it's somebody I'm dating or have romantic feelings for, it triggers my anxious attachment. And kind of the same thing is like, I wouldn't tolerate a friend doing those things to me.
Exactly.
So why the hell am I tolerating it now in this relationship? But I think we tolerate more from people that we have a romantic physical connection with, than just our friends. So, because I cut friends off very easily once they violated my boundaries. But in a relationship,
you'll keep them around.
Right. Like,
but why?
I don't know.
We do that.
Trauma.
I mean, think about all these stories going on
Trauma.
about women and men. I'm a woman, so I come at it from a female perspective, but women that stay in abusive relationships. It's because of all of this ambiguous, vague, gray area of existing. And if you have trauma and you have a disorganized attachment like me, we were just discussing, you don't know what's up or down. You don't know if it's your fault or their fault. You're so confused about the scenario that's why you're like, you convinced yourself that you're the problem to the person who's abusing you. I know I'm switching topics, but it goes back to like kind of the same thing as that you'll consider that person a friend, but they're not.
Right.
But you're confused. So we perpetuate these unhealthy relationships.
I have been guilty of thinking that I could be friends with somebody I had feelings for, but I can tell you it was in the hopes of
having a relationship.
Potentially it turning into more and not being clingy or whatever, like, hey, I can just be friends. And, but in this last instance, I put my foot down finally and was like, don't reach back out to me. Like, it's too much to be friends. Like, we don't need to touch base or be pen pal buddies. Like, I want somebody who chooses me. And if you don't choose me, I want to go find somebody who's going to fucking choose me.
I just thought about something because I had been also in that situation where I tried to be friends with an ex, which is probably why I believe what I believe now. Because I did try to be friends with an ex, but it was never really a friendship because I still had feelings for that person. And so they would kind of use it against you, be like, oh, well, you're too emotional to be friends, and sort of like diminishing you, that you're too weak to put aside your feelings and still be a friend. And I think that it's okay to give your permission and say, no, I'm always going to have feelings in that place because I've only known you in a sense of a relationship.
Right, because you didn't have a friendship. If you didn't have a friendship before, right, you've only known them in the context of having a romantic relationship.
Right. So I've only known you in the sense of being a lover or a friend, and that's all. That's what it's going to be. So our friendship is revolved around that relationship. It's just muted in some ways, and you're just lying to yourself. And you're like, I'm good with that. I'm peace. Like, I'm out. Like, that's not what I want. Because I'm still technically in a relationship with you.
What do you think about, you dated somebody, broke up, they started dating somebody, they broke up, and then they come back to you and say, I made a mistake. I want to try to make this work.
My disorganized attachment would make me never, ever trust them again. I would never be able to feel comfortable. I would always think that they were looking for a way out and that they weren't sure of themselves. And so I don't know that I've never actually ever gotten back together with anybody knowing that.
I've had volatile relationships where we break up and get back together, right? Like sporadically, like short
in the
term,
same,
not like we were, I haven't seen you in a year and now you're circling back because it didn't work out with whoever.
No.
But my anxious attachment would make me fear when they pick up their phone. Are they texting somebody else?
Yeah.
Are they looking for somebody else because they're not happy in this relationship? Like, are they just trying to find the next thing?
I think it's also like self-preservation to see that stuff. Because remember, I dated somebody that was married and I didn't know he was married because I didn't know to look into that stuff. So I was really naive at one point.
Yeah. So I dated a guy, and he has cheated on his wife with me. This was years ago. And we have maintained a friendship. And I can say now I had to cut it off because in my mind, his wife does not know we're friends. She knows about me. She knows who I am. Obviously doesn't like me very much, rightfully so.
Yeah.
But he still wants to have a friendship with me. And I'm like, it's not a true friendship if your wife doesn't fucking know about me.
I've said that to Jeremy because there's a lot of females that want to be friends with him.
Oh, I bet they do.
Like, they might be exes and they're around, right? But I'm like, they're not really a friend because they're not friends with our world.
Right.
They're only friends with you. And that makes it... Right? So if they're only friends with him or only contacting with him to see how he's doing, they're not like, we have plenty of people that are like, they're friends with us both. Most people, like my friends, will add him and include him as a unit.
Yeah.
And a lot of his friends will also include me. And so it's like, it's a global friend. Even if we don't talk all the time, they're friends with the family. They're friends with everybody. But there are people that would, let's say, only be friends with me or only be, I mistrust their intentions. And everybody sees it. Like, they think that they're hiding, but they're really just like, we all see you.
And for me, and he and I actually we do have a great friendship in the sense of I feel like I can tell him a lot, he can tell me a lot, but really the person he should be talking to and telling everything to is his wife. Like, just in the context of, like, morality, I'm like, okay, this is not...
Yeah, like, if you have exciting news, you should want to tell your partner, not your ex-partner.
Right. And I mean, I'm talking years, you know, I definitely, you know...
I thought of you
a lot of
because
mistakes were made, but in that whole context of everything, but, you know, ultimately, that's who he chose to marry and he's with, and that should be the person he needs to work on the relationship with and go to when times are tough, not me.
I think that there are definitely exceptions to all of these rules, but I think across the board, if you had a bad relationship with somebody and you broke up, I do not think that you can be friends. I don't think that that will ever be a healthy dynamic, especially if you move on and you have, now everyone would be like, well, I have a friend, I have an ex, and now he's friends with our family. And yes, I'm sure that that happens at some place or another, but most of the time it's a very unhealthy attachment. And I think those are hoarders. I think people hoard exes.
I have a friend I feel like hoards her exes. Like, she doesn't ever want to let him go. She wants to maintain relationships with them. And it's like, no, like, you gotta be okay with the fact that this person was only in your life for a short time. Like, no, not everybody's meant to stay in your life forever, right? And you gotta and it's taken me a while to understand that. Like, there are people who come in, teach you lessons. There's friendships that only last a certain amount of time or whatever, but what's done is done. Like, what do you need to continue?
I think it's actually...
And she's hung out with them, like, goes out and hangs out with them, but I think it's
only
preventing her from finding a new person.
So I have an ex that, like, I believe that they're literally not just friends, but, like, close friends with all of their exes. In their present day life, like, going into new relationships with all of your exes literally as your friends is really bizarre.
I don't know if I could handle that.
Right, and expecting
like,
your new world to accumulate with all these people and move on, and there just becomes like a tumbleweed of people along with you, and I'm like...
I just had like a vision of like a Western movie with the tumbleweeds, like...
Mostly girls do that. It's
like,
mostly females that
with
do
like
that.
a tumbleweed of females rolling.
Dusty,
useless,
I
wonder if I can add that to the
underwatered.
If I dated somebody that was like, hey, yeah, I'm friends with all my exes, we talk on a regular basis, that would cause me some alarm. I don't know if I would...
Yeah, because you're going to be one of them one day.
Does this person... Do they meet the new person? Or it's just like, no, I have these friends.
We're all going to dinner on Tuesday.
Right. Or is it just like, these are my friends that I talk to, but they have nothing to do with you? Like you said, your friends are like friends of the family, like of everybody.
Yeah. I have been friends... My ex-husband, one of his like high school girlfriends, became a very close family friend. She was one of my very good friends. And it was because we met on neutral grounds. They were no longer ever involved.
And it was a long time ago.
It was such a long time ago. And I wasn't obviously like threatened by the situation, but I was like, she became a very close family friend.
Yeah.
And our kids played together.
Though. Right. But is it the other person you're talking about that's like, they take all their exes with them to the next person?
Yeah.
The exes are not in their life in the sense of like they hang out. They just talk.
Yeah, they hang out and they're like literally like every day. Like,
that's weird.
Yeah, it's very odd.
I think that's odd. I don't.
And that's why I think that dynamic of that particular person showed me how unhealthy that is.
Right.
Because if you, how do you ever like actually have an authentic existence or a connection that doesn't automatically have like, it's like moving into a new house with all of your other houses that you ever had. You pack all those.
It's another good visual. Like all these other houses are within this house. Yeah, I guess.
In their mind, they're just like, oh, you know, like the same thing anybody would say, like, oh, I care about that person and I'd like to have them in my life for always and forever. But I'm like, that's hoarding. And then your problems are always there.
I think that's an unhealthy attachment to somebody.
Yeah, I just wonder what
you don't want to let go.
You need to have everybody, but that reminds me of that person who reached out to you. It reminded me of the same scenario, like collectors. Mm-hmm. How many does that person have? They're just collectors of people that reach out to you and they like still want to have a tendril of connection to you. I always question why, because you can't move on if you do that.
Well, I think some of them do it because they don't want you to move on. They want to keep you in this kind of like cyclical stuck environment.
Yeah,
but I think there's more toxic people that do that. Like I don't want to be with you, but I don't want you to be with anybody else.
So let's say that they have a relationship, right, with someone that's not fully a fulfilling relationship. They still reach out to you,
which is what he claimed he
right?
was in,
to have a memory of something fulfilling. So you never actually work on your problems or focus on the relationship at hand because you're always like, oh, I have this, I don't have any responsibility to that person and I don't have to do anything for it, but I can still get a feeling from it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a valid point. I think that is the nail on the head. Like, this person I have no responsibility to, but I can reach out to and still get my cup filled from them. Yeah. Because there's still some emotional tie there.
Yep.
But I'm in a relationship with this person who's really not fulfilling me right now. Like, maybe we got into a fight and my ego is bruised.
Stop complaining about your relationships to your exes. Stop reaching out to your exes. Stop texting in pictures of your current life to your exes. Just let it go. Move on. That's my
I was like, you personally triggered right now?
No, just because people do that. I have been reached out to by exes and I'm like, go away.
Well, did that just happen to you?
Yes.
So he sent you a photo, right, of a place that he was buying?
Yeah, it's like ridiculous. These people, like, they just want to put themselves in you, and I find it offensive. I don't handle it so calmly as other people will. I'll be like, what are you doing here? You're in the wrong room. Like, move on.
See, I need to be more like you. I'm more of like, I want to hear you out.
I know. I didn't want to hear anything.
I know.
I don't want to hear about it, and it's not because I'm being mean. It's just you have to focus on the existence that you have at hand or you're not being present, in my mind. So this is my belief system, is that if you're doing that, you're not being present and whole, especially to your relationship. I think if you can focus your life into a person and your connection, and you can be vulnerable to that person, then why would you take all your tumbleweeds with you? You have to let it go.
Yeah, and I think too, if somebody has an avoidant attachment style and maybe their current relationship, there's something that was maybe super intimate that they weren't comfortable with, their avoidant personality made them probably reach out to their ex. Because it's like, again, not as intimate, still some emotion there. I could still get my cup filled.
Yeah. Oh, you look so beautiful. They send you a compliment.
Yeah.
So what do people normally do when they're in a relationship and they have a fight with their partner? They usually reach out to an ex and complain about it and get sort of like validated.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you though. I think there's a level of acquaintance. Like if it's been years, like,
yeah, it can happen. If it's many years later and you're on neutral ground and there's nothing, everything has been said, done, and healed, and you meet on different playing field.
Yeah, because there's none of my exes I have feelings, well, only one that I have feelings for, but that's the most recent one. Everybody else, like,
if you saw them out, you'd be like, hey.
Yeah, I have no ill will, I have no residual feelings, nothing. Like, we're on neutral ground. But so much time has passed, I've had other relationships or whatever, but if there's still that residual emotion, it's always, I think you're fooling yourself if you think you can be friends without feeling that, and I think, like I said, I've done we can be friends, but I'm really hoping
it's unresolved trauma.
Into relationship, yeah.
It's unresolved trauma, and you're just bringing unresolved trauma into your healed environment. And that's triggering for most people. I think they just don't recognize it, or they usually have the best intentions. Most people just want to be kind. Yeah. Not everybody's like, oh, I'm trying to set up a weird situation.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if everybody's like super, plotting, like I'm going to reach out, to Megan on this 2 weeks after
a
week after her birthday.
Yeah.
And
these people.
Yeah.
He needs to just on your bike. That's what Jeremy says, on your bike. Get out of here.
Get the fuck out.
Get the fuck out of here. On your bike. It's the Brits say.
I've never heard that. I like that. On your bike.
On your bike.
Yeah.
They bike everywhere in Britain.
Well, and I think that, like you said, that's also me not setting healthy boundaries.
Yep.
And that's why I finally was like...
Well, it's rejecting somebody, right? And so you say, like, I appreciate that you reached out, but I don't feel like this conversation is really
there's
productive.
nothing to be said.
Yeah. And it's okay to say that and be like, I appreciate you reaching out. There's just nothing productive about having any discussions.
Right. But in my mind, I still had residual feelings and was still hopeful.
Wanted to get, like, something.
Right. That, okay, maybe timing was off and he had to go do whatever he needed to and realize he made a mistake and whatever,
But see, that's how we trick ourselves, because we say we make excuses for other people's poor behaviors, because I think you have said people who show up for you immediately, not later in hindsight, or like come back and say, oh, I want to give you what I didn't give you then. They would give it to you now because they're ready now.
Yeah.
Nobody wants those people anyway.
When like we talked about, I don't know, it would never be the same. And that's why one of the things too, like on this episode, like, can you get back with your ex? And I was reading something that said, you know, it's never going to be what it was in the beginning. It doesn't automatically just go back to what you had in the beginning. And especially if there were boundaries crossed, lying, cheating, you're always going to have those trust issues.
I know people do that in marriages, and God bless you for that. And that's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work because you have to work on building that trust.
But why do that with a friend? You're going to go through like friend therapy to keep your ex around?
Well, I'm just saying, if you get back with your ex, like, if you're thinking you want to get back with your ex, I think you need to think about those things. I was talking to my friend about this last night because her ex was seeing another girl and sleeping with her too and all this stuff. And I said, okay, let's pretend that he realizes he made a huge mistake and he comes falling at your knees. I love you. You're the love of my life. I fucked up. You got into a relationship together. How do you think you'd actually feel? And she's like, I would not trust him. I'd feel insecure and wonder if he's cheating on me. Is he doing? And I was like, and is that the relationship you want?
No.
Most like, no.
Most women would punish you for the rest of your life.
Fantasize and romanticize, like,
yeah, but you know,
fairy tale, like, oh, it's gonna be great, but actually, like, no, it's gonna take a lot of fucking work, especially if there was trust issues or cheating or lying and not just even. You can cheat. If you're in a relationship with somebody and you're texting your ex talking about that relationship, that's fucking cheating. Yeah. It's emotional, like, cheating to me. Yeah. And which sometimes can be worse. Like, if I found out my boyfriend was talking to his ex about our sex life, I would flip my fucking shit.
Yeah, I would be really upset about that.
Like, nobody needs to know about that.
No,
like,
it's private. That's intimate.
Yeah,
that's why
that is our relationship with each other. And if you have an issue, that should be something we talk about with each other and try to work through as fucking adults. But
it's also embarrassing. Like, I would be like, ew for you.
Yeah, or like, you know, Deidra's being a real bitch right now. Like, you're like, yeah, I am, and you deserve it. But you know what I mean? You know what I mean? If you saw Jeremy talking to his ex about you.
What, I did, or?
No, I'm saying if you saw you.
Oh, I'm like, he did? Like, what are you talking about?
See? Exactly. It would not go well.
I was like, what?
Yeah. You're like,
no, if he was talking about our marriage, I would be like, inappropriate.
Yeah,
that's inappropriate. You talk inappropriate.
I read a meme that said, if somebody has to hide messages that you're sending, that's a form of cheating. Like, you're already starting this.
I don't think it's a form of cheating. I think it's dishonest, because you know you wouldn't be deleting it if it wasn't.
You already know it's sketchy.
You know it's sketchy,
or you wouldn't care.
Most people say, like, if you have to hide something, you already know it's wrong.
Right. Like, he saw the message from your ex, like, because you had nothing to hide.
Yeah, because I just get a random message, and I'm like, yeah, I don't really know why.
Yeah.
But it's there. Hi.
Right.
There's that.
Did you respond to him?
No.
I love it. I need to be more like you.
Just don't answer people. Like, you don't have to. Like, I saw it. Good. You know, like, so happy for you.
I think that's what I'm guilty of, too. Like, I feel like I need to give a response to people versus just, like, anything. Right, being like you said, there's nothing productive to be said here.
I can't stop people from neither can he. You people can't. You can't stop people from trying to reach out to you. You can control your reaction to that action. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not wrong because people send things to me. Whether I respond to it is my choice.
Right? Yeah, you can't control that, but yeah, the response piece, and especially if you're in a current relationship and your ex is reaching out to you, like,
yeah, and maybe they don't see it as inappropriate. Because everyone has a different perspective on existing. Yeah. Some people have very, like, polyamorous lives.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
You know, some people have different dynamics. They have open relationships where they can message whoever they want. And they don't always check, like, hey, what's your relationship dynamic?
Yeah.
So people are going to come at you in their own dynamic. And if it doesn't jive or, like, mesh with you, you don't have to make a thing about it. You could just let it, like, over there. Just fine.
Right. Yeah.
And you don't owe anybody anything. Like, if your ex messages you, just practice not responding.
That's going to take some work.
I think that would be great, though. Like, to look at it, maybe write a note in your phone.
To look at it and not care would be a huge milestone in my life.
Well, maybe care.
I'm not there yet.
But you don't need to give them your care. You can write it in your notes, your response. You can read it. You can say it out loud. And you don't have to put the energy back into their court.
Yeah. Well, I think I've always had, because I always had this small hope that it would work out. Yeah. And I finally got to the point where there is no...
You wouldn't want it if it came back.
And I know that rationally too. I think it's more probably, again, it's an ego thing. Like,
yeah,
you know,
the ego gets us in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, it does. So, all right. Well, let us know what you think. Can you be friends with your ex? Are you friends with your ex?
I mean, you might be.
You might be. I mean, it could work out. I don't know. I don't think for me personally, it is a good thing. But
on a long enough timeline, we're all gonna die anyway.
So on that optimistic note, we're going to end this episode. Thank you guys for watching. If you're on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and comment. It helps support the channel. And if you're listening on the podcast platform, thank you so much. And we will see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.